So this episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, it was only 40 some minutes, but it had almost like a big screen effect to it. Three major plots were sorted out in this episode. The change in the Klingon hierarchy, Worf's lineage, his father being framed for Kinnemer, and the real reason behind Kalar having a child. I didn't know that a Klingon child could grow so quickly from a Klingon woman. New plot for sure. So you got family on three levels and the future of the Klingon Empire. The battle between Garan and Duras. Now, Reunion is the 81st episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, the 7th episode of the 4th season, and probably a top 10 episode of all time for the show. In this one, Ambassador Kalar returns to the Enterprise to advise Captain Picard, who has been chosen as a neutral party to arbitrate the selection of the new Klingon leader from two candidates, the very proudful Gowron and the crooked Duras, one of whom is suspected to be a traitor. Now, story by Drew Deegan, Thomas Perry, and Joe Perry, with teleplay by the two Perrys, Ronald E. Moore and Brian Braga. Air date November 5th, 1980. The great Susie Plaxton plays Kalar. Robert O'Reilly plays Gowron. Patrick Massick plays Duras. Charles Cooper, the soon-to-be fatal Klingon leader, Kempek. John Paul Stour played Alexander, which is Worf's son. And the chronology of this is before Legacy and next was Future and Perfect. Now, this one, the Star Trek Enterprise, is met by a Klingon battlecruiser carrying Ambassador Kalar and Klingon Chancellor Kempek. Kempek reveals that Captain Picard has been poisoned through the wine he was drinking for the last number of months and is slowly dying, and insists that Picard become the arbitrator of succession and identifies assassin. He suspects that it's either Gowron or Duras, the two main challengers for his succession, and warns Picard that allowing a Klingon dishonorable enough to use poison to become Chancellor could result in a war between the Klingon Empire and the Federation, and eventually did. Kalar, former lover of Worf, brings her a young Klingon boy, Alexander. She confirms to Worf that the boy is his son, explaining she had hidden from Worf in fear that Worf would insist on marrying her. Of course, Worf took this commendation to protect the Klingon Empire in the battle over the Kinnemer incident. Worf was troubled by Alexander's lack of interest in becoming a warrior, but already burdened by his discommendation, fears for Alexander's future and the stigma of his family name. Now, when Kempek dies, Gowron and Duras arise from the rights of succession. Ironically, to check if he's dead, there's a Klingon paint stick, and Gowron uses as respectively, but Duras sticks in the tomb for a few more seconds. During the last rite, a ceremony verifying Kempek's death, a bomb detonates in the assembly hall, killing two Klingons. Picard decides to prolong the rites using archaic ceremony Jajuk to give the Enterprise crew time to complete a forensic analysis. They discovered that the explosion came from a Romulan bomb worn inside the body of one of Duras' guards. Now, when Kalar investigates Worf's commendation and infers the truth, Duras had framed Worf's father for complicity in the Romulan massacre of Klingons in order to cover his own father's involvement. Duras discovers the investigation, confronts her, and kills her. Not before that Alexander and Worf bond over the passing of Kalar. Worf challenges Duras to combat on the right of vengeance. Duras initially rejects the challenge, but accepted when Worf claims Kalar was his mate, which he was. The Enterprise crew arrived too late to prevent Worf killing Duras in combat. Very well shot scene. Now, after Klingons leave, Picard reprimands Worf for killing Duras, although Worf defends his actions valid under Klingon law. Though Duras' death means there is no longer any reason to hide the truth of the massacre, Worf explains to Picard that the High Council will not admit their error in punishing him, and vows he and his brother will convince them to speak the truth. Worf acknowledges Alexander as his son and places the boy in the care of his adoptive parents, Sergei and Elena Rodchenko, who they took their name. Now, the Klingon design of the new spacecraft is quite good. It's called the Vorchak class attack cruiser. Designed by Rick Sternbach, the model was built by Greg Jean. The episode also refers to the appearance of the character Gowron, played by Robert O'Reilly, who will appear in subsequent episodes of both Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. Duras. The Bat'leth prop, a Klingon weapon, was designed by special effects producer Dan Curry for this episode. The Bat'leth has since appeared throughout the Star Trek franchise and is used to take out, Duras in a very interesting scene. Now, according to developers and promoters of the show, it's a very emotional episode that reunion again. The story of Kalar's death is still considered one of the saddest conclusions in Star Trek franchise history. In 2017, Den of Geek ranked Susie Plaxton's role as Kalar as one of the top 10 guest stars in Star Trek The Next Generation, noting her performance in this episode, in the early episode, which introduced the character in The Emissary. Now, Den of Geek ranked the episode as one of the 25 must-watch episodes of Star Trek. Now, in 2017, Comic Book Resources ranked Worf and Kalar as the 9th best romantic relationships of the Star Trek franchise up to that time, noting the introduction to the previous episode, The Emissary. They note that in this episode, she returns her Worf son, but is killed by Duras. Now, Keith DiCandido of Tor.com rated the episode 10 out of 10. Zach Hanlon of the AV Club gave the episode a B+. Now, according to Star Trek followers, Kalar was suggested as the inspiration for the later Star Trek main cast member character B'Elanna Torres. In terms of continuing the show, it provides an origin story for Worf's son Alexander. The episode again introduced the Bat'leth to the series. Now, Reunion was released in the States on September 3rd, 2002 as part of the Star Trek The Next Generation Season 4 DVD box set. Now, the key link episodes, of course, The Emissary, Sins of the Father, and the two-parter Redemption, parts 1 and 2, where a certain person shows up from the past looking like Tasha Yar. Very, very, very freaky. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give this episode at least a 9 out of 10. There's a lot going on here, but Kim Peck, Garan, Duras, the actors that play it, very Shakespearean. And Klingon profanities in this episode. You have Picard up against it. He's trying to... the Klingons really respect Picard because he's an accomplished mediator, which is something that the Klingons have learned to adapt. Now, key links is when, of course, when Riker went on an exchange program on a Klingon ship. And again, it all links together. So this is probably the link in the chain. At its best, Star Trek, the Klingons made the episode better. Obviously, the crew of the Enterprise were great, but when the Klingons were involved, it was just through the roof. And it's, like I said, very Shakespearean. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the story of Reunion. If you like what you're doing here with our Star Trek review podcast, let us know in a like, comment, subscribe, or share. Bye.